Hello, the purpose of this video is to give students that were either maybe absent for a day or maybe I was going too fast in the lecture anyway, to give them an opportunity to finish up the Chapter 1 class notes. Sorry about the monotony, but I'll be reminding students of this every time I record a video. All class notes need to be done in Cornell note style, so draw a line down the center of the page. The questions or prompts will be on the left side of the page, and then the notes or the answers to the prompts or questions will be on the right side of the page. And additionally, please remember to number them. If they are not numbered or not in Cornell note style, you will lose points on this assignment, as it makes it more difficult for me to scan and see if you have done them all. All right. Some of you are going to turn off the volume and listen to music. Some of you are going to choose to listen to me. While you are taking notes, I will try to add my personal insights, add additional stuff that I'm looking up on my phone while you are actually writing. So if that is a distraction for you, or you simply don't want to listen to Paula's talk for 15, 20, 30 minutes, you are welcome to turn the volume down. Here we go. All right, key principles in sustainability. So every time you see SUS, it's sustainable or sustainability. Anytime you see ENV, it means environment, and it might even be lowercase. So chapter 1 is kind of just getting you into the ideas of what sustainability means and why it's important and how humans interact with the environment. Obviously, we need to live more sustainably. I get it. I'm a parent. I've got 2 teenagers. I was raised kind of a hippie family. My mom always composted. We always tried to conserve energy. We used a wood stove. My dad, I remember him always caulking and sealing leaks. It was just important in our upbringing. My wife's family, not so much, and we do butt heads a little bit on what we need to do in our own lives and what we need to do in our own home. All right, so more principles of sustainability. So anytime you see ecos, it means ecosystems. You might also see ORGS, orgs. That would mean organisms. So again, remember, all of the bullets and all of the stuff after the question or prompt is on the right side of the page. So I really do hope that students coming out of either my AP Environmental Science class or my biology class just have a better understanding of what is necessary in your home lives. It is it's annoying sometimes, remembering to turn off ceiling fans, remembering to turn off lights. I'm only leaving the room for 15 minutes. It's annoying. It is, but it's necessary, because if you and thousands or tens of thousands of people worldwide all try to do better, we can make the world a better place. But it is tough. You got to think about it all the time, and sometimes you just don't want to think about it. But you got to think about it if you're going to be able to pay attention. All right, here we go. If you are still writing or typing, remember you can write or type your class notes. Pause the video. I will always warn you about 5 seconds before I'm ready to go to the next slide. So if you are still writing or typing, you can pause the video. Here we go. So we're doing, and many other developed nations are doing, a much better job of depending on solar energy. Solar energy still cannot compete with non-renewable sources, coal, oil, natural gas, because of government subsidies and tax breaks. Good news is we control the government. We can vote for people who want to eliminate or reduce those subsidies and tax breaks. And those are there because we have fossil fuel reserves that we rely on. And there are very important people in this country that own those resources and want to continue to harvest them and to sell them for energy production. So pay attention to who is running for elective offices. Pay attention to their environmental stance and their voting record. Again, I know it's annoying. It takes more time than simply voting Democrat, Independent, or Republican. But if you want to preserve what's left, it's needed. It's necessary. All right, so chemical or nutrient cycling. So we're talking about primarily carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus cycles. And if I'm not mistaken, that we get into that in chapter 6. Biodiversity obviously is declining as the extinction rate is faster than it has ever been. And that is not a natural thing. Well, no, beg your pardon. It is. It is happening in nature, but it's humans. Human activity is accelerating the rate of extinction. All right, moving ahead in about 5 seconds. All right, and here we go. Key parts of sustainability. So whenever you hear of natural capital, think of, what's the term? I'm sorry, give me a second here. Ecosystem services. There are things that the environment does that are important to humanity and economies for free. But as we degrade our environments and we lose biodiversity, it is more difficult for the environment to do these ecosystem services for us. So natural capital is it's a made up thing that the environment does things for us that saves us money. Also, I don't know if I abbreviate it in this chapter, but anytime you see RES, it means resource or resources. So if something is inexhaustible and never will run out, it's sustainable. Renewable energy is sustainable. Non-renewable energy is not sustainable. It will run out. And you probably know this already, but I'll say it anyway. The reason why the climate is changing and sea levels are rising and glaciers are melting and habitats aren't able to support the types of environments they used to support anymore, most of that comes right back to, well, it all ties into population. I mean, if we didn't have such a large population on this planet, we wouldn't need as much energy. And if we didn't need as much energy, we wouldn't need to burn as many fossil fuels. But it does come back to non-renewable resource use: coal, oil, natural gas primarily. There's the ecosystem service. So natural resources, solar, wind are the big ones. Renewable forests. There is sustainable forestry and there is non-sustainable forestry. Non-sustainable would be like clear cutting, just wiping out an entire forest. Sustainable forestry, there are many different methods, picking and choosing the trees, so there's still some habitat there. Also trees and the shrubs and stuff that grows on the ground that holds the soil there, which keeps the soil out of the rivers, which keeps the rivers cleaner. Term sustainable yield means the highest rate of renewable resource used without reducing its supply. And there are there's a lot of harvesting that we do, pulling things out of the environment. Could be trees, could be crops, could be fish, that we just take too much. We take too much because you make more money faster. But then the resource gets degraded and eventually it runs out And then where does that leave you? Well, it leaves the people that were harvesting it, the owners of the companies and the corporations, very, very wealthy, and then they move on to the next resource. But what about all the people in those communities doing the work? They're left out in the cold. Bumping ahead in about 5 seconds. And also, beg your pardon, there was another bullet there. Just a reminder, for the most part, probably 95% of the year, we'll be doing lecture on Monday and Friday. So if you prefer to use a laptop or a Chromebook or a tablet to do your notes in class, set reminders on your phone for Sunday night and Thursday night to make sure that you bring that technology with you. Okay, guys, bumping ahead. Nutrient cycling is a vital ecosystem service. It's very important. So in Brazil, that used to be all virgin rainforest. And now it was all wiped out except for that small patch you see. By the way, you do not have to write down the captions for the images that I put in the PowerPoint. It was replaced by soybean. Same type of thing happens in Sumatra and Indonesia and many other places with palm oil. I really encourage you, and I know it's annoying every single time you're considering buying a product that you know has to have oil in it, looking at the ingredients and finding out if it's got palm kernel or palm oil kernel or palm oil in general. There are some sustainable palm oil plantations. I just eliminate the use of it altogether, and it's really, really difficult. And it's extremely difficult when we're talking about soaps and detergents and hair conditioner and hair shampoos. It's really difficult. And if you really want to get serious about this, and I haven't gone to this extreme, I'll admit, look up all of the derivatives from palm oil, things that come from palm oil that will be in ingredients, but will not say palm oil. If you really want to get serious about it, have that list on your phone. And when you're buying ice cream or you're buying something that you suspect might have it in it, you've got this huge list of all the derivatives that come from it, so you can avoid that as well. I don't go to the extreme of asking, at a restaurant, do you use palm oil to fry these fries? Or do you use palm oil to, actually, at the donut shop, you can ask them in advance. But ask, if it's not going to ruin your evening or your afternoon, what type of oil they used to do their frying in. Palm oil is very, very, very cheap. But the word's getting out. All right, I digress. Moving ahead, here we go. Please use this as an opportunity to practice a little bit with your notes. I know if you're crunched for time, you're just trying to get them all down on paper. You're not, but take a look back at number 1 and number 2. Every minute you spend reviewing your notes now is a minute you don't have to spend later studying. Now, you will spend minutes, potentially even hours, studying later. I get that. But if you practice a little bit now and go over the stuff that we've been doing, it'll help in the end. So, yeah, there's lots to choose from. More sustainable living, focusing on ecosystems, knowing how the earth works and survives, getting environmental, getting involved in protecting the resources. There's lots of principles of sustainability. 3 types of natural resources. Take a look at number 5 if you're not sure. It's another reason why I number my notes, is it's real easy, especially in class, to get kids to focus on where to find the answer so they're not searching. Yeah, so we got, inexhaustible solar wind, we got renewable forests, grasslands, fresh water, mentioned sustainable yield. Non-renewable resources would be coal, oil, and natural gas are the big ones, salt, sand, metals, mineral resources. And how can human activities hurt Earth and its ecosystems? Take a look back at number 7. Yeah, so they typically degrade the environment and destroy habitat, um, pollution, adding wastes to the air, water, and soil, which obviously harm the organisms in those environments. Yeah, all that works. All right, here we go. Moving on. Examples of inexhaustible, renewable, and non-renewable. You don't have to write down all the choices, so you're using the diagrams to write this down. So inexhaustible, solar, wind, geothermal. Actually, today I was writing the lecture for chapter 15, which talks about renewable resources, and was talking about wind turbines and how bird and bat deaths are decreasing because we're more cognizant of the fact that they kill birds and bats. But they can slow down the rotor speed. They're all also being very careful about where they put these things. Actually, some of them even have UV lights, which scare the wildlife away. Some of them have these ultrasonic sounds that scare wildlife away. Some are being designed so there's no place for like a bird to stand or a bat to stand. Coolest thing is they're actually using radar to detect whether or not flocks are coming, and that is shutting them down if flocks are heading towards us. So that was pretty cool. Renewable trees, topsoil, fresh water, non-renewable fossil fuels, pretty much. Iron and copper, the big metals that we, well, there are lots of metals that we use, but the big metals that we use. All right, bumping ahead in a couple seconds. All right, here we go. Full cost pricing. This is a big one. If we actually included all of the environmental costs and the costs of fixing the environment for gasoline, for electricity that comes from coal, oil, natural gas, people would stop buying it. They would definitely stop buying it. And I notice, sorry guys, notice I forgot a period here. All right, let's get back to that. And the good news is, full cost pricing, you can urge lawmakers to make that happen. Importance of sustainability. I'll be honest with you guys. The environment that I grew up in a small town, and literally, 2 miles out of town, you're in nature. It's not like living in big Sacramento, but the environment that even the kids that are growing up in Quincy now have compared to what I had in the 70s and the 80s, there's just no comparison. And that's happening all over the planet. What will be left for you, your children and grandchildren, assuming you choose to have families that way, depends on you. And it depends on the actions that we take and the actions that we take right now. We've known about this problem for decades, and we've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and we can't put it off anymore. I don't know why I forgot a period there as well. It's very odd. Sorry. All right, moving ahead. Do countries differ in resource use? Of course they do. Of course they do. We are very, very concerned about what India will be doing in the coming decades. India is becoming developed at a very rapid rate. They're still not anywhere close to the European nations and Japan and the United States and Canada. There are many examples, but they have huge, huge coal reserves. And if they use that coal to get electricity to their populations, it's really going to hurt the planet. But, I don't agree with the United States and other developed nations pointing fingers at them saying, don't use that coal. They can point their finger right back and say, you've been doing it for 5 decades, and that's what got you where you are today. Why not us? So developed nations need to step up, and they need to assist developing nations with money and technology so they don't have to get their growth from cheap energy. 17% of the world's population uses 70% of its natural resources. Why? Because we can afford it. That's startling. That's startling. 83% of the world's population uses 30%, meaning there's not as much for them, not as much availability, which means they need to get the cheap stuff, the coal reserves that they have in their nation, or the coal reserves that they can import cheaply. Is it all bad? I mean, we have the technology. We do need a lot of innovation coming in the coming decades. We need to figure out a lot of problems, but we do have the technology to make some of those changes now. So we're doing good work, but we're still doing more bad than good. All right, getting ready to move ahead. All right, here we go. I give one example of an inexhaustible, renewable, and non-renewable resource. So go back to number 8. Yeah, so inexhaustible, solar, wind, geothermal, renewable, trees, topsoil. Gosh, it's really hard to read. You might print out fresh water. And then non-renewable, of course, is going to be all the fossil fuels, copper and iron. I paraphrase full cost pricing. Say in your own words. An opinion, do you think fair cost pricing, full cost pricing, is fair? Do you think that that's legitimate, that it should be included, like right now? And you're going to want to take a look back at number 9 for this one. And something, anyway, so it's you include all the hidden costs. I forgot to mention health costs because, pollution obviously hurts people, and that means they need to go to the hospital. And if they don't have benefits, that means it affects taxes and all that stuff. Do you think that's a legitimate way to wean ourselves off of cheap, non-renewable energy? I think it needs to be phased in. But would I be willing to pay, $12 a gallon for gasoline right now? No. Would I have any alternatives? No, but I could sell my gas-powered vehicles, both of them, and buy maybe an electric vehicle for that. But no, I'm not ready yet. But I think if we phase it in, people will start buying less gasoline and buying fewer gasoline-powered cars, and that will make electric vehicles cheaper. Supply and demand, folks, supply and demand. What are the percentages of resource use versus population for developed and developing nations? Take a look back at number 12. Yeah, so developed, 17% of the population, 70% resource use. And then, of course, you just do simple subtraction. Developing nations, 83% of the world's population are using 30% of the world's natural resources. Here we go. Human activity. We directly affect 83% of the Earth's land surface. We are way too smart for our own good. We have figured out how to exploit most of the parts of this planet. And unfortunately, that exploitation has been happening in non-sustainable ways. So urban development, cities are growing. They're getting closer together as suburbs are built. Crop and energy production. I just finished reading Bill Gates' book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, and I was shocked at how much carbon is produced by, I knew energy production and I knew transportation, but agriculture, huge chunk of the greenhouse gases come from agriculture. Huge chunks come from development, just building and concrete. It's crazy. Cutting timber because you need to build homes. Extinctions are 100 times faster than before humans arrived. Therefore, humans are responsible for the increase. Examples of human activities. So the book, this new book, by the way, I hope you enjoy it. It is phenomenal. It's so much better than the last one. I haven't even begun to figure out how I'm going to use a lot of the things that I have and never had to help you guys get ready for the test. But some of their diagrams are phenomenal. So I include the diagrams, and I'm just giving you a choice, to pick and choose. I always would urge you to pick ones that are not obvious to you. That way learning happens. Why write down something you already know? Extinction, degraded wildlife habitat, shrinking forests, erosion, which is a consequence of cutting down forests, aquifers, a fancy word for a groundwater resource, ocean fisheries are declining, water pollution, air pollution, climate change, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many more. All right, you guys getting ready to bump ahead. A couple seconds. Here we go. Examples of Earth's degradation. There are lots. It's a little warm in my office. I'm going to turn on the ceiling fan. You would also be shocked at how much public land owned by the government is leased to corporations to, use for cattle, to use for agriculture, to cut down forests that we own, that the public owns. Our government is giving this land away so it can be exploited. Examples of public land, Yosemite, so national parks, obviously. Protected wilderness areas. Obviously, when I was talking about land the government owns, you don't have people doing clear cutting in Yosemite. You don't have people riding motorcycles, through the wilderness in Yosemite. There are some things that are allowed. There are many things that are not. All right, you guys getting ready to bump ahead. All right, here we go. Just want you guys to take a look at this, where the human footprint is largest. So look for the red, the purple, and then the black. So obviously, Great Lakes area, eastern seaboard is pretty busy. The green areas are the areas where we still have not exploited it. Notice the top of the globe is a big one because it's frozen a lot. But look at India. Look at Europe. All the red there. Look at Brazil, Eastern South America. Look at the islands over north of Australia, how much they've exploited their environments. And a lot of that right above Australia is tropical. Tropical rainforests have some of the highest levels of biodiversity. All right, moving ahead. All right, ecological footprint versus deficit. Realizing I did not do as much abbreviating in this PowerPoint as I would have preferred to. I usually put POP for population, REN for renewal, RES for resources. You are welcome to abbreviate if you wish. Deficit means the footprint is larger then biological capacity for replenishment means that over time it gets worse and worse. It doesn't stay the same. It's out of equilibrium. So how does culture get involved? Agriculture, feeding, and by the way, cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, that is considered part of agriculture. It's basically raising food. Industrial, obviously. All right, so we need a sustainability revolution, meaning all of the innovation, all of the development that we do over probably the next 5, 6, 7 decades need to be done with sustainability in mind. Agriculture needs to be done sustainably. We need to stop cutting down forests to grow crops. We need to get more efficient and better at how we grow crops so we can continue to grow them in areas where they're getting warmer, where they're degrading because we're not, rotating crops, we're losing topsoil, whatever. We need to get better at what we do where we're already doing it rather than continuing to do it inefficiently and having to create more land because of that. Well, more land to grow or to graze cattle or other wildlife. Pardon me, not wildlife, domesticated animals. Sorry. All right, bumping ahead. All right, so an environmental sustainable society, protect the natural capital, focus on keeping ecosystems healthy. Not sure if I'm going to show it this year. I typically do, but it's getting a little outdated. But movie Before the Flood that Leonardo DiCaprio is the narrator and the main character, I guess, if you will, in this documentary. You will be blown away in that movie. If we don't see it in my class, go watch it on your own. But blown away at how much good we could do if we reduced or eliminated just the consumption of beef. When I saw that film first time 7 years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago, I'd given up beef. I never ate a whole lot of it to begin with. I'm not a huge burger. I don't like steaks fan, but eliminating beef, you'd be shocked at how good it would be if everybody just minimized it to maybe twice a week or eliminated it completely and just ate chicken, pork, turkey. So sustainable living, learn from nature. Nature does this and it does it sustainably on its own. Study that and figure out how we can apply that to our lives and our needs. Conserve resources, which means conserving energy, recycling, buying products that don't have as much packaging. It kills me how much packaging is on the stuff at the big box stores, Sam's Club, Costco, Walmart to a degree. And making sure that when we are taking things out of the environment, hunting, fishing, that we are leaving enough so where those populations can rebound and we can continue to have that resource. Including full cost pricing, which is something that we can get implemented legislatively, which means we need legislators in Washington and at the local level that will get this done. One of the most depressing and startling things I learned in the book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, it's an easy read, by the way. You might want to check it out if you're really interested, is how it's going to take the entire world. And it's going to be a lot more difficult for developing nations to get on board and do what the developed nations need to do. Um, Everybody's got to do this across the entire globe. And that's really difficult to force that on countries that are still developing and have massive portions of their populations that are starving. And we just need to be good stewards, leave the earth better than we got it, and make sure that the environment is as good, if not better, than it was when we were born. And it's getting harder and harder to do. Getting ready to hop ahead. All right, here's the term biomimicry. So it's a scientific effort to understand, mimic, and catalog the way that nature has sustained life on Earth. So nature likes to be in equilibrium. Needs to be a balance. And before humans got here, the Earth was doing that. And it was doing it very well. We need to study nature and figure out how we can interact with nature and allow that still to happen. Why? When doing what we do, making things, solving problems, if we are thinking about biomimicry, we can produce more stuff sustainably. Last item in chapter 1. What we learned? The Earth, minus humans, doesn't waste energy. It adapts to changing environments. That's a big argument of people that don't think climate change is related to humans. Climate change has happened many, many times. Yeah, but it takes thousands of years for it to happen. So animals can adapt, plants can adapt, they can evolve to new conditions. Evolution doesn't take place. Actually, let me back up. I'm reading a book on evolution right now by Richard Dawkins. There are some examples of how evolution can take place in decades, but that is very rare. Evolution takes, hundreds, if not thousands of generations for those mutations and crossing over events. Crossing over is an event that can happen during gamete formation, sperm and egg, if we're talking animals. And plants and animals can adapt to these changing environmental conditions as fast as they're happening because humans are degrading the environment so much. And that's why the extinction rate is so high. All right, getting ready to hop ahead. What are some negatives associated with human activity and the environment? Take a look back at number... Where is that? Beg your pardon. Holy cow. We did a whole lot of notes since the last check for understanding. Take a look back at number 14, 15, 16... Yeah, so development, crop and energy production degrade the environment, mining, timber, all those activities. And number 15 in the diagram, forest loss, overgrazing, fertilizer runoff into waterways, so water pollution, oil spills. Yeah, all of those are negatives associated with our activities. The 3 revolutions have changed Earth for the better or worse, depending on how you look at it. And where's that one? I'm not finding it. Oh, beg your pardon. It's number 20. So the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, and the information revolution. Sorry about that. 3 examples of sustainable living you and or your families can realistically do now and or in the future. Take a look at number 23, 22. There are also things that you just know that you can do at home. So yeah, LED light bulbs, more energy efficient appliances, fixing leaks in your home, voting for legislators that are going to improve our environmental laws, um, using an electric car versus a gas powered car, um, looking at how nature does things, and making sure that when we're thinking of developing something or making something, it's done in a sustainable fashion. Eliminating beef from your diet or minimizing beef in your diet, giving up products that use palm oil. There's lots of things that you can do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the Chapter 1 class notes. I believe I have made these due Sunday Sunday the 22nd, if I am not mistaken, and they are always due at midnight. All right, thanks very much. We will see you guys in class.